Hello everyone! I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Welcome to my guide on the French. Now the purpose of this video is going to be to provide you with a brief overview of how to play the French for newer players. This guide is targeted at anyone that is probably around the platinum rated level or lower, and we're going to discuss a brief and simple build order as well as some strategic concepts. Some of those will apply specifically to French, and others will help you no matter what civilization you play. Overall, I hope to be able to give you a foundation for how to play aggressively because it's a lot of fun and it works well in most matchups. So we're going to be covering a 1TC Feudal all-in build order. I'm playing here against Order of the Dragon. This also works fantastically well against other civilizations that are slow, like the Ottomans, Japanese, but you can play it against virtually any matchup. So let's get into it. To start the game off, you're going to go ahead and send your 6 starting villagers onto sheep. I like to then get my scout out and moving around, and then I double click my sheep so that I select all of them and then move them closer to the town center. This just means that you're going to have more efficient gathering. Then you're going to make sure that your town center is queued to sheep, and then you're going to send a villager out to build this house. Once you have 7 that are going to be on food, you are going to queue your town center to go over to gold. They will then build their mining camp, and you want to get 3 villagers on gold. The scouting pattern that I've talked a little bit about before, but that I like to use, is to take up about half the map and get as many sheep as you can. So I came down this way. You'll see my scout is here. Looks like I missed one there that I didn't see. And then I will come back around, and then I'm going to look to go and get some vision of my opponent's base. Here, on any maps where you have deer that spawn very close to your town center, it's a good idea to just take 5 villagers, build a mill, and then start collecting on those deer because they will give you some good, fast, and safe food when they're close by. The French are very good at taking outside food sources, so one thing that you can also look to do later into the game is come out here and take this deer, get on the boar, and all of that is a direct result of you having feudal age knights, which are very strong. So if you're going to get onto this deer, you want to immediately queue survival techniques just because it's going to mean that you gather these deer quite a bit faster, and getting early deer is amazing because it means that all of the sheep that I'm gathering with my scout, as well as some of my starting sheep, are going to be left here. So once you start, you have 7 villagers on food, you're going to get 3 on gold, and then you're going to queue back to the sheep. And you're actually going to be rallying to sheep at your town center until you have completed your age up into feudal. Typically, if you're not getting deer, that age up timing will begin right around 2 minutes and 15 seconds to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I like to select 5 villagers is what I age up with. I will then put them in a hotkey. I will hit that hotkey, click on the town center so that they deliver the food, and then I will tell them to go build the School of Cavalry, which is the landmark that we are going to be aging up with. So you'll see if you're going to do the mill out here and then go survival techniques, it is going to be a slightly slower age up, so my age up doesn't start until right now at 2 minutes and 50 seconds, but that'll be a little bit faster if you don't start with the deer. So once again, 5 villagers on age up. I always tell these age up villagers to drop off before building the building because I'm not sending them back to sheep. They are actually going to go directly to wood. It's important that even while you are aging up, that you stay rallying to the sheep on your town center because you are going to be building a lot of feudal age knights. You're going to need quite a bit of food, and so in order to do that, you need to rally to sheep until you have completed your age up, and then after that, we're going to add a few more to gold, then we will get some more on wood, and then back to sheep. So as of right now, what you are looking to do now, you'll see my scouts out over here picking up more sheep, as many as I can get, and I am actually going to look to come around the backside of my opponent's base and see what's going on. On this map, you typically tend to have back gold from what I have seen. You have the close wood line, But if the gold was in the front, sometimes it does spawn in the front, then you have an easy attack point. I'm going to see very shortly here that he has back gold, which means it might be difficult to attack this, but I know that he's out here on the deer. And so you are just looking to get as much information on your opponent's base as you possibly can. You want to find out where you want to attack, and that won't always be in the same spot. Sometimes you will be attacking the gold. Sometimes you'll want to attack the wood line. Sometimes you just want to completely push them off food if they're a berry gathering civilization. So it just completely depends. He actually knows that because he's playing against French, he wants to get his base safe, so he starts building a wall very early. But fortunately, my scout made it just in time to see what was going on. He's going up with the Aachen, so he's going to be looking to take the resources directly around this Aachen. And so until he has like a tower or something up, he is going to be exposed. So as soon as this finishes, you are immediately going to queue out knights. And so what you want to do is take your school of cavalry, and I actually like to position it right around where I think the front of the base is going to be and tell the knight to go there. Because I had set it to go back here, it actually queued to go there, and then as soon as this wall completes, I think it starts running back around to the side. But the goal with the French is to utilize these knights for early aggression. So what you really want to be doing is, because knights are the strongest unit that you can really have in Feudal, you want to use them to do as much damage to your opponent as you can. Sometimes that damage will be killing of villagers. Sometimes it'll just be psychological damage, and that you are harassing your opponent and being really annoying, and it causes them to make mistakes. But either way, knights are really good at idling villagers as well as killing villagers. So you want to take advantage of them and see what you can get done. I run my knights right to the back of the opponent's base, and then I'm going to be attack moving toward the backside where I know his deer are and where his gold are. And I actually end up getting a kill or two just because he wasn't fully prepared for it. This will often happen. You can take your opponents by surprise, and because of all of this early aggression, it will cause them to make mistakes, make blunders, cause them to do things that they wouldn't normally do. This is a very good strategy to practice and get good at, just because at the lower levels of play, it is much easier to attack your opponent than it is to defend their attack. So the whole time, what you need to make sure is that you're keeping your economy up, you're getting your villagers on gold, you're getting the wood, you're getting the food, and this will just have to be something that you get accustomed to as you play more and more. You'll learn how many villagers you need on each resource. You want to make sure that you are continually producing knights. So you don't ever want this building to stop producing knights, and you don't ever want to stop producing villagers from your town center. But I've already got 4 knights in his base, and so now I'm going to once again look to kill more villagers or just idle them. One thing that's really important to note about the French, if you're new to the French, or if you play against the French a lot, one of the strengths of the French is that their town centers produce villagers faster than other civilizations. The Order of the Dragon in this particular matchup actually has the opposite, where their town center produces villagers slower than other civilizations, so it's kind of a double whammy. But what that means is that if the enemy doesn't go 2 town centers against you, it's 1 town center against 1 town center, and you're playing the French, all you have to do is keep them busy with these knights, and you are slowly getting ahead economically, because you're going to naturally start to have a higher villager count, which means you bring in more resources, which means you will be able to produce more military and just get ahead in the game. So that's one thing to really keep in mind. You don't need to overcommit to anything because you will naturally get ahead as the French. That leads me to another concept that I wanted to talk about, and this is a concept that is prevalent in chess. It's the idea that the threat of a move is actually greater than its execution. So what you'll see is I'm taking these knights around, and I'm just kind of hitting stuff. I'm looking to hit villagers. I am not looking to let any of these knights die, though. So I don't dive too far toward the town center. I try to stay far away from this tower because I don't want my knights to die. Because simply having these knights alive means that my opponent has to deal with them. Which means he might make mistakes. The pressure of just having these knights near his base means that he might do something that he wouldn't normally do just because he doesn't have the mental capacity to think about it. It makes it very hard for your opponent to play. But if you lose the knights, now they're gone, now you don't have the pressure. So simply having the knights alive is actually stronger than using them to deal a small amount of damage and then having them die off. So you don't want these knights to die. You want to keep them alive for as long as possible. Then you can use it to not concede space. So one thing that a lot of newer players do that I have experienced in my own games is you bring your units to the enemy base and you deal some damage, but then you take them because you're afraid of losing them, like he is now building spearmen here, and you run all the way back to your base with them, and you go sit him in front of your base so that he doesn't attack you. Well, that's not always something that you want to do. There are times when you need to defend and bring your units back, but if possible, you want to leave them close to the enemy base where they can continue to deal damage to the opponent. So I have an archery range up, and I have a blacksmith, and I'm now going to be bringing those units back over to his base, sending him in to deal damage. I am countering his spearmen with my archers, and then I can just use this to continue to idle his economy and make it very difficult for him to play the game. Now, the concept that we talked about earlier, I'll actually pause this for a second, that the threat of something is actually greater than its execution, definitely applies here in this game, and I want to show you specifically how that's the case. Order of the Dragon is a very food-intensive civilization. Why is that? Because their units cost twice as much resources. So this one spearman will cost 120 food as well as 40 wood. If you look at his resources here, he only has 88 food right now, and he has 446 wood. So he has overgathered a little bit of wood, and he needs a lot more food. Now, I'm not a perfect player either, so I have a lot of gold in the bank. I was using it to try and get resources. But either way, he built a second barracks, and he doesn't have the food to produce the units. That is really going to hurt him. That is an overcommitment. He's so afraid of these knights, he knows he has to build a lot of spearmen, and yet he cannot utilize both of these barracks efficiently to continually produce units. That is one of the mistakes that you can cause your opponent to make that you can then capitalize on. On top of that, because I had my knights just running circles around his base, not really diving the TC, but just running around looking for the free stuff, he decided to then go and gather some stone so that he could get a second town center up, which plays very directly into my decision making through the rest of this game. So I didn't see this yet. I could have scouted this a little bit better and known that this was coming up. But I did prepare to all in him. So back at my blacksmith, I picked up the siege works upgrade, and I knew that I'm gonna now gather some wood so that I can use these archers to build a ram or two. As a direct result of seeing this town center here. So you see, all I do is I send my archers to attack the spears. I then will send the knights back to attack the spears after, and then just decided, you know what, let's go ahead and see if there are any villagers to kill. There are not, so let's make sure that we take out the only military that he has yet been able to produce. Now I know that this town center is here, and what you see here is I back up just a little bit, and I'm going to produce rams. So let's talk a little bit about how to close out games, because there is a couple of ways that you can close games. You can build rams and then look to take buildings, but that often is not the most efficient way to end the game. The reason I chose to build rams here is specifically because of this town center. When I see a second town center, my natural instinct is to go destroy it because it doesn't have the same defensive resources that the main one does. It has significantly less health, only 2,500 versus 7,000, and it only shoots arrows when there's garrisoned units, whereas this one is always shooting. So it's a lot easier to kill this town center than it is other ones, and he committed a lot of resources to this. So I said, let's go ahead and build the rams, and let's go take down the town center. If you are going to do the same thing, you need to make sure that you bring 2 or 3 rams. 1 typically is not enough to get it done, and if you're going to try to kill the town center, you should really make sure that you get the kill on the town center. Throughout this whole process, he has only been able to produce another 4 spearmen. These are 2 populations, so this is technically like 8 army units, but I have 28 units, most of which are in his base. I'm still streaming units into his base as well. And so this is just completely overwhelming for him. I will then take the knights, and instead of using them to kill the buildings, I'm going to run around and look for even more villagers, just continually piling on that pressure. Now, if they don't go a second town center like this person did, and instead they were just refusing to give up the game, and you have an advantage, what you want to do is continue to build knights, continue to build archers, military units, and just continue to run circles around their base. You don't have to commit with rams to destroy buildings. You can actually just wait till they completely run out of food. With all of my units here in his base, he's not going to be able to get these berries. He's currently out of sheep, and I will be able to see when he leaves to go get other berries, or to go get deer, or to come out here onto the boar. And so when he does that, I can just follow his units with the knights and go and kill them. He is going to struggle to produce the military units to be able to push me out of his base. And that's really what you want to do as French. You want to be just an overwhelming force that can sit in your opponent's base until ultimately you end the game in one way or another. And that's exactly what happens here. I hope that this was beneficial for you. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, if there was anything else that I can clarify, I would love to do that. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.